and welcome to The Third Seat for leaders navigating the chaos of growth. This is a podcast for the accidental leaders, the rebellious founders, the CEOs of high-growth businesses who've built a juggernaut and are now trying to keep up with it. Today, I'm joined by Louise Hill, founder of GoHenry, a business that I've been following since its inception. We're going to be talking about the different inflection points that she encountered along the journey and the difference in her leadership style that she needed to be able to create as she grew into, first of all, the leader of a larger business, but then also moving into a board role as COO, and then most recently back into the CEO role. One of the things I absolutely loved about this podcast is seeing that somebody who's been on that amazing journey and grown a business into the billions can still be really human and really humble. And I think you'll hear that in everything that we talk about. So take your seat and let's get started. Thank you for joining me, Louise, for The Third Seat, our new podcast. We're really, really excited to have you here as our first guest. So I particularly was really excited to talk to you because we've had GoHenry accounts for both of our children from the moment that we could.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I didn't know that.
Didn't you?
No, I didn't know that. Thank you.
And for me, I think there are actually very few of these kinds of stories about business growth where you can really get to the bottom of somebody's leadership journey. It's really difficult to get people to talk about that. There's lots of different podcasts where people are talking about their business growth journey and what they did in terms of funding and, all of the sort of different machinations of how that all works. But people don't often talk about leadership. And I think when we first met, we started talking about leadership and your leadership journey. And that's what I wanted to delve into today. So you have a really exciting growth story for GoHenry. It's purpose-based. It was based on a, let's not say kitchen table idea, I think probably more of a school gate idea.
Yeah.
And it's one of those stories that's almost a kind of overnight success that's taken years. You know, it's that feeling of where did
like
GoHenry.
So many.
Yeah, like so many.
Yeah, exactly.
So I, on the vein of thinking about leadership, I wanted to start with thinking about what kind of leader you felt you were at the very beginning, because it must have taken so much energy to get GoHenry off the ground in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think I was a particular type of leader when I started setting it up. And yes, I like the fact that you chose not to use kitchen table. I'd challenge people sometimes, would they say that if I were a man?
Yeah.
It was actually the side of a football pitch where it really started to coalesce as, hang on, it's not just me having this problem, though lots of parents are having this problem. What kind of leader was it? So I'd kind of grown up, as in my career journey, in ecom, as ecom was emerging, always on the operations side. So I'd always had big teams, the contact centres, the pick, pack and dispatch warehouses, the logistics to manage. Very used to big teams of people, building those relationships, leading those teams. When I set up GoHenry and kind of jumped off the edge of that cliff, gave up my day job, started doing it, there were three of us.
Yeah.
And suddenly you go back to being not a leader at all, but doing everything from standing on the lid of the wobbly toilet seat in the tiny little one-room office that we'd rented in Lymington on the south coast, painting the ceiling to try and freshen it up a little bit. So I don't think I really was leading at that point. I was in the nitty-gritty. It was there were three of us. We had to do everything. And that didn't matter if it was painting the toilet ceiling or having the conversations with an issuing bank and persuading them to allow us to use their license, or going to Visa and persuading them to work with us.
Yeah.
It was roll your sleeves up and do everything.
Yeah.
Figuring out the marketing, figuring out the communications. Gosh, I mean, you said overnight success jokingly. The idea was probably 2009, 2010.
Really? Yeah.
We launched to the UK public in November 2012.
Yeah.
So I guess that was the first stage of the company. And it took us, like most companies, it took us a little while to get going and find out ways to reach customers.
Yeah.
But as we started to reach customers and started to have to hire people, then what you're doing becomes leadership, and how you have to act changes. But it was still in those early days when there was just a handful of us, really collaborative, really working together, all mucking in, doing whatever needed to be done.
Yeah, yeah. And what point did you feel that shifted? Because I think there's a point for most founders, most businesses at the point they scale, certainly, and that's usually when we come in and support people. But it's different for every business, that point at which that collaboration and that sort of cozy club, if you will, that you create at the start, where it does feel quite collaborative and inner circle-y.
Yeah.
At what point did that start to shift for you, feel different?
I actually think there have been several inflection points, if that's the right word to use. I think probably the first one was, I don't know, somewhere around 15, 20 members of the team, where we, clearly by that point we'd started to, there were people who worked in marketing, there were people who worked in product. We'd set parameters for which function you worked in, still working really closely together. I was certainly very, very involved in the detail. But that was when it was more about making sure each team was working in the same direction, making sure we were all working towards one common goal. And I think one thing that runs through all of it, you said in the intro, we're a purpose-led business. Absolutely. And that has been a driving factor throughout the past 13 years of being live to the public. That has shaped who we've hired, when we've hired, how we've shaped the product, what we've done, commercial decisions we've taken or not taken. And I think the leadership there has to be about making sure that mission is front and center of everything. And particularly in the hiring decisions, because it's so important that you hire people who genuinely care about that mission, want to be part of it, aren't there for it was never going to be a 9-to-5 job anyway, but, aren't just there for the paycheck at the end of the month. They're there because they want to be part of what we're trying to do. Yeah. And that really helped.
Yeah. And it's a very compelling mission, isn't it? You're talking about the future of...
Well, I think so.
Yeah. Millions of children's financial futures, which is incredible. And why wouldn't people want to be part of that? But how did you communicate that? Because that's not always the easiest thing to do, is it? I mean, that sort of passion obviously feeds through. But in terms of how you communicated that mission and kept everybody on purpose.
I actually think it's really easy. I mean, it to this day, that's what wakes me up every morning. That's what excites me every day. And when you're a relatively small company, because you, I hope this isn't going to sound weird, touch everybody in the company and you're very present with them and spend a lot of time with them, I think that comes through really, really strongly. And it's relatively easy. Where it becomes less easy as you grow. Yeah. And there was definitely a shift that I realised had to happen as we started to get to 40, 50 members of the team. And I could no longer hire everybody, be the lead in every single hiring decision, because I just didn't, there weren't enough hours in the day. And I had to delegate some of that to the function leads.
Yeah.
Then there are two things going on in your head. One is, can I trust? Can I let go? And two is, have they made the right decision? Have we got the right people on board? How do we test that really quickly so that if we do make a mistake, we can act on it really quickly? Because when you're scaling a company, there's not much money to go round. There's not much time. You've got so much you want to get done. You've got to use those resources really wisely.
Yes, it's really tough. I think it's probably one of the hardest things for leaders in that space, especially at that point when it's 40 to 50 people and actually you run out of choice. You don't have the choice to be in control to that extent. And in something else I was listening to that you did, you talked about most founders being control freaks. So
yes, and I put my hand up there. Yeah. I am absolutely a control freak. Yeah, I'm lucky enough now. I have a lady who comes once a fortnight and cleans, and I still will walk into my living room and look at the mantelpiece and go and move. She puts things in lovely, neat rows, not artistic clusters. And I love an artistic cluster. So I have to go and rearrange my mantelpiece. That's my OCD. But no, I am a control freak. And, one of the things, I guess I've been lucky enough to be asked to talk about building the company and some of the challenges on the way. And one of the things I've realised is, how many times you have to check yourself and step back and kind of go, hang on a minute, who am I being today? Who do I need to be today? Or who do I need to be for the next 6 months? I suppose to use the phrase a lot of people use, how do I show up? How do I need to show up to lead us through the next stage of growth or delivery or whatever it is we're doing? And, I think the fact that I wasn't a 25-year-old founder really helped me. I'd had lots of experience of leading big teams with amazing leaders working both above me reporting into them and in my teams. So I'd had lots of examples of what I thought was good practice and bad practice. But I have tried to make it a discipline to literally every 6 months or so step back and say, okay, what should I be doing now? And what should the business be doing now? What matters? What's going to drive us towards our mission for the next 6 months, for the next year, for the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think those 6 month blocks are so important when it's fast growth and nothing stays still for very long, does it?
No.
So you talked about sort of having to learn to delegate, having to learn to trust and let go of things. That, as I was just saying, I think that's one of the hardest things. And looking back, it's probably quite easy to think, I just learned that. But what was the biggest stretch for you? What felt the most uncomfortable while you were going through that particular inflection point?
Well, uncomfortable, maybe not in the way you're thinking. This is something I have spoken about a few times because in many ways I was really cross with myself. I'd took pride in the fact that I thought I knew the areas that I was strong in, and I equally knew the areas I was not strong in at all. So I'd really tried to hire in experts in the areas I was weak in and give them the space to get on with doing what they needed to do. And this was, I don't know how many years ago this was, but we were probably 60, 70 people at the time, maybe. And I suddenly realised I was drowning. That's to your uncomfortable point. I was really uncomfortable. I could not keep up. I was working insane hours. I'd still be trying to clear emails 11:30 at night in bed. And then I'd get up in the morning and it was like, ugh, what haven't I done? What's the most urgent? What have I got to get started whilst I'm eating my breakfast? And I just thought, what am I doing wrong? What I realised was, bluntly, I hadn't delegated well enough at all. I'd handed over budget control in certain areas. I'd absolutely encouraged people to decide on how they got, I set strategy, but how they achieved that, how they delivered that within their teams. But too much of what we did or why we did what we did or who the key person was within our critical partner groups was in my head. Or on my laptop, or I was the only person who had the login. There were some really stupid things that I was the only person that we had the login for. And I suddenly thought, how did I let myself, how do you back yourself into that corner when, you should know better? I mean, one example, I suddenly realised it the other day because the email pinged into my inbox and I had to forward it to our accounts payable team. Our corporate BT account, 15 years into the business, is still under my email address. And you can't change it. It's the username. You cannot change it. But maybe our accounts payable team have the secret password to that and they can get into it now. So anyway, I set up, I love a campaign. I love kind of naming something and making it a project. And the team will laugh if they hear that because I'm always talking about projects. But I made it a campaign, single points of failure. I said, right, we're going to work through the business. We're growing like crazy. We have to eradicate single points of failure.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put my hand up. I'm one of them. So every single person, every team, let's go away and document wherever there is something that only one person knows how to do it. Only one person has the intro to the individual we work with for that. Only one person has the login.
Yeah.
Let's eradicate them. And my name was absolutely top of the list. I was probably 40% of the entries in the company was me.
What a revelation.
Really, I mean, how embarrassing. And I'd let that happen. So I was really cross with myself. And the uncomfortableness was the realization that I was drowning and, hang on a minute, why would I? Yeah. That shouldn't have happened.
It's that hyper responsibility moment, isn't it? Where that you realise that you're the bottleneck in a way. That's really quite pragmatic of you to do that and realise that sat with you. What we see quite often in the founders that can't make that shift is that if things aren't delegated well enough or the team isn't as empowered as they could be, that actually they start looking to the team and laying blame there, rather than looking inward. Is that something that you learn in previous life, to look at yourself first, or is that just a natural trait?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that I learned to, I can't think of a specific example of learning that or somebody who's modelled that behaviour. But so I don't think I really, I don't think I really know the answer to that question. It's more I'd love to solve a problem. So it's like,
even if you're the problem.
Even if I'm it, yes. What's the root cause of it?
Yeah.
What do I need to change? And sometimes it's like, oh, it's obvious. It's this thing over there. Yeah. And sometimes it's like, oh, oops.
Oops. I mean, that could just be the maturity that you mentioned earlier, that, you have that. I think those are life lessons, aren't they? That sometimes the problem is with you and not
probably
other people.
Yeah,
but I think it's so interesting to... especially when you're in that founder space, because in so many ways you have to be the hero. And yet you also have to be quite vulnerable in order to say, I'm the bottleneck, I'm the problem here.
I think that's massively important. When you spoke in the intro about companies, you often get the story of a company's scaling or a company's funding, or if any learning is to come out of listening to me burble on, but listening to podcasts, listening to other people who've gone through a journey that you want to go through, whatever that might be, then I think there has to be openness and honesty about things that went wrong, because then hopefully other people can think, oh, hang on a minute, let me just ask myself that question, or is that something that's relevant for me at the stage I'm at? Whether that's in building a company or in working in a big corporate, it's all relevant. And the other thing I think is important, somebody asked me not very long ago now, they made a statement, isn't it amazing women don't have egos? Well, that's not true at all.
That's definitely not true.
It's definitely not true. Of course I've got an ego. Of course everybody has. But not to the extent that it bothers me to be open and honest about things I mess up. And also, if you're trying to build an organisation where you want people to take risks and you want people to try and drive hard and do the best and try things, test things and take risks, you have to be there being visible as you do it yourself. And sometimes it goes really, really well, and that's great. And sometimes it goes not so well. But, being open and honest about it hopefully then sets a precedent that everybody in the company can do the same thing and not be worried.
And take risks.
Yeah.
See where it goes. Interesting. Just to take you back to a point you made earlier on around purpose, and that's what still gets you out of bed in the morning and still kind of, gets you going. How do you balance that purpose and that personal mission, if you like, with the emotional aspects of it? Because that must at times mean that you're quite frustrated that you're not getting there as quickly as possible, that people are standing in your way, or that, how do you strike that balance?
I think just determination.
Yeah.
Just sheer bloody mindedness.
Yes.
It's the very first idea, and I've used this phrase so many times, I blame my kids. My kids were spending all my money on iTunes, and as a parent, I was trying to figure out, hang on, one, how do I stop them spending so much money? But two, how do I communicate to them, teach them that money has to come from somewhere and you've got to earn it before you can spend it. And at the moment, I'm having to earn a lot to pay for your music downloads.
Thank God for Spotify.
And I started talking to other parents. That's why I was joking about the side of a football pitch. It was on the side of a football pitch. I was joking with them. And all these stories came out about people having the same but different problems, whether that was spending on eBay or buying their way through levels on games or whatever it was. It was only in having those conversations and then sort of thinking, well, surely there's something out there that helps parents cope with this, realising there wasn't, and then realising we'd left kids behind. We were giving them cash, and yet they were clearly spending online and needed to be able to spend online, and yet there was nothing to teach them about that, to help parents teach them about that, or put any limits on it so that it was a safe space. So I didn't set out to, it wasn't a case of I woke up one morning and thought, kids need financial education.
Yeah.
It was more a very practical, hang on, I'm a parent, I've got this problem.
Other people will too.
Look, other people have got this problem too.
Yeah.
How do I fix it?
Yeah.
And that was really where it started. And it's very easy to anchor back to that all the time. It is amazing how often through the journey that we've been on and today, when we're looking at should we do this or should we do that, if you tie it back to what's best for the customer, it's obvious which one's the right decision path.
Yeah.
And so, you said, how do you anchor things back to the mission? It's that. How do we help parents teach their kids, give their kids the tools in the best possible way to learn about money practically in the real world?
Yeah.
That usually answers the question, should we do A or should we do B?
Yeah, it's really straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah. And, we can have been debating something heatedly for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then suddenly one of us will go, actually, what is best for the customer? And yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We all know the answer.
I worked at Danone for many years and worked in the baby food, baby milk side of things. And the purpose was what babies eat really matters. And it created a filter for every decision that we made. And it was just incredibly simple. It made life really easy. And I think actually that's when businesses find it difficult to use purpose as a decision-making filter, is when they overcomplicate it and don't really
no, you're right. It massively
principles.
Simplifies it. Why?
Yeah. Why are we doing what we do? Hi everybody. Just a reminder, I'm Rebecca Morley and we are Third House. We help ambitious entrepreneurs to become better, more intentional leaders. You can find us at wearethirdhouse.com. There you can find a free, really quick 5-minute assessment that you can take to see where you are on your leadership journey and to learn more about working with us to shape your own leadership path. Now back to the episode. Have you ever had any tension, either from kind of external stakeholders or internally, between that purpose and the commercial imperatives of the business?
Yes, I'm grinning because I'm thinking, well, what can I tell you about in public?
That's the tricksy question. That's when we open up the sort of next layer.
Yeah. So, yes, there was a suggestion a little while ago about a partnership that might work with somebody who has a huge online presence, who without doubt could have extended our reach in both the UK and the US. And there was a commercial deal to be done there. Undoubtedly, that would have driven more revenue to our bottom line. But it just wasn't the right partnership. It would, it was at a period where I'd literally just been invited as only one of 2 commercial organisations in the UK to give evidence to the government's Education Select Committee about financial education in schools, and had been in the Houses of Parliament, around in this great big wooden panelled room being recorded live on Parliament TV with the gavel and the order.
Those are the moments, aren't they?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, no, exactly. How did I end up here? Yeah, and the chair was a gentleman we'd worked with, spoken to many times at the Treasury, and bless him, I wasn't ready for this. He said, "Let's open with Louise." But, I'd literally just been doing that. We were standing up saying, government, you need to make these changes in the national curriculum. This is why it matters. And this was kind of a commercial partnership that just didn't sit well at all with a responsible approach to money. And so we said no.
How did that feel?
The right thing to do.
Yeah.
What's right for the customer.
Yeah.
Not the right role model.
Yeah. Brilliant. It's when purpose really shines through, isn't it? Did you get any pushback internally?
Yeah.
How did you handle that? Because that's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, a good board is always there to challenge, and we had that debate.
Fascinating. So going back to thinking about sort of leadership and those inflection points, and I was listening to something this morning about you doing the big photograph on the beach with everybody in their Go Camp T-shirts.
Oh God, and was I crying as I talked about it?
Maybe.
Yeah. God.
But about 10 minutes later, I had a little cry about an email somebody sent to me, and I thought it's okay because emotion is good in business, and I think
it is.
It drives so much of that passion and purpose.
Taken me a long time to accept that.
Yeah,
it was something I for years used to really worry about, the fact that I get emotional and my voice gets wobbly and my eyes fill with tears. Yeah, I thought it was weakness, and I thought, a man wouldn't do that, and I've got to knock that out of myself. And now I just think it shows that something matters to me.
It's strength of passion and purpose. If it helps, one of our clients is a man and often wells up at all hands when he's talking about how much he loves the team and how proud he is of what they achieve.
Good man.
And he is universally loved because of that, because he's got such an amazing kind of, that real strength of feeling towards the business and the team. I wasn't going to expose you for crying, actually. I was going to talk about that, that maturing as a leader. And, we talked about that inflection point at around 50. And there's obviously a big gap between 50 and 250. So how do you think your leadership has evolved during that time? Because at Third House, we talk a lot about accidental leaders. We meet a lot of people who are accidental leaders. They're leading, they've got a team, but they're not really thinking of themselves as leaders.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you've talked about today is, I can really see a lot of the opposite of that we talk about, which is intentional leadership. I think you really do think of yourself as a leader.
I think for a long time in the company, that's the biggest impact you can possibly have, is be the best leader you can possibly be, to free people up to do their best work.
Do their thing.
Yes.
And if I asked, so if I went, if I had somebody from your team sat here instead of you,
yes,
how would they describe your leadership style, do you think?
Oh my goodness. What I would hope they would say is inclusive and collaborative. Gosh, that is a tough question.
I'm sorry.
I hope they would see that I try very hard to find ways to develop people and give them the opportunity to grow, develop, stretch, learn new skills, because they grow, we grow when that happens.
Just to sort of unpack that a little bit then, to use a very coaching term, sorry. In terms of how you bring people into the organisation and how you do sort of grow them and develop them, do you tend to bring people in that are in that space where they can grow with the business, or do you tend to hire people with more experience? Because I think certainly for a lot of the businesses we work with that are at that 50 inflection point, that's always a really big question, because you've got that sort of growing up, that sense of the team growing up together. And then if you bring a really experienced hire in, sometimes that can knock things around a bit. If you bring more junior people in, sometimes you haven't got a grown up in the team. How have you navigated that?
I think a mix of the two. One thing, I don't know if this is it's linked to what you're talking about. There was definitely a point where we had grown people within the team and they'd become managers. And they had maybe 5, 6, 7 people in their teams. And it was not working out as well as I wanted it to work out. And I was thinking, well, one particular thing that happened. And why don't they know to do X, Y, Z? And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. How do I know to do X, Y, Z? Who taught me that? And what I realised was when I left university, I got onto a graduate fast track programme with the House of Fraser. And they sent me off to Cardiff, Howells of Cardiff, and I spent the best part of 2 years working my way around all the departments. I went to head office, worked in the legal team, worked visual merchandising, security, various shop floor departments. But they also sent me to a huge number of management training courses, both internal and external. And then, of course, I had the chance to practice them live because I was given teams or departments. And then I'd gone from there to an American management consultancy where, again, they gave us a lot of coaching and management development. And again, it's one of those kind of, oh, how stupid can you be moments where I thought, and we've just promoted these poor people and given them no training and no support. And I'm wondering why they don't know how to manage people and they don't know some of the basics. So we started to put a program, rudimentary, because we didn't have enough funds to send them on courses. But we were able to put together some coaching and training and development for them so that they learnt some of the basic skills. Because, there are basic skills you can learn about how to talk to people, how to have difficult conversations, how to do a performance review. All of those things. Yeah, the basics. The one-to-one once a week, just to run through what's going well and what's not. Yeah. And that made a huge difference. I bet, But again, it was hang on, you've completely missed that in the process. Yeah. So, there've been so many times over the years where things have had to shift. And actually, in a way, I've gone through a shift in what I'm doing very recently because a couple of months ago, I moved from being CEO to being executive chair. Yeah. So that has been handing over all the day-to-day running of the company. And that, that's a change for the teams, but it's also a big change for me. I bet. Yeah. And it's been really interesting, actually, talking to people, particularly founders, who've very clearly two camps. There is one camp who sort of come up to me with a very sad face and sort of put a hand on my shoulder and said, how are you finding it? Is it really hard to let go? And I'm like, absolutely not. No, I'm still dancing a little jig round the table once a day. No, it got to the point the time is right. We've got a fantastic exec team in place. We merged with an American fintech, Acorns. It's almost 3 years ago, coming up for 3 years ago. And we've globalized a lot of the operation. Yeah. And there's an incredibly competent and driven and focused team in place who can run the business. And where I can have the most impact is still being the face of GoHenry, continuing with the advocacy, lobbying government, pushing for financial education in schools, doing that sort of thing. And so leadership for me has changed again. I'm still here, very much part of the strategy, the strategy of the company, but not the day-to-day management. And so, it's a shift. It is a big, and it's sort of still leadership, like you say, but it's leading from the inside out, rather than from the inside, not down necessarily, but around. How have you made sure that leadership team, that exec team, are really well
functioning in order for you to step out? Because that's we talk to so many founders and first-time CEOs about this sort of hub and spoke model and really needing to move away from that and take yourself out of the hub. Have you intentionally made sure that leadership team are functioning really well as a group?
Yeah. Lot of work. And that's I don't mean me doing the work as an exec team. A lot of work together, building trust, building collaboration. And that's triggered a thought. Another shift point or inflection point was realizing we had built competent functional teams. I'm going to wave my hands around now because it's the columns of functional teams. But it was only at the exec level that there was really cross-functional thinking and understanding of the company.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we lurched from one stage to another. There were gaps in between. But realizing you have to build. So how do you build that knowledge and curiosity into the next layer down?
Yeah.
Because, if you're thinking about succession planning, so, okay, yes, I knew there was going to be a point where I would want to step away from day-to-day management. So the exec team has to be super strong.
Yeah.
But actually, at any point in time, one of the exec team might move on. You're always wanting to bring up the next layer. Yeah. So how do you coach and develop that next layer so that they're not just brilliant in marketing, but they're actually, anything they're looking at, they're thinking, well, how does that impact the financial crime team or the operations team? Or what's the commercial opportunity across the group?
Yeah.
As opposed to in my functional, in my vertical. And that led us to set up more meetings, which is something we usually try and get away from. But we set up we called it a program meeting, but key individuals, not necessarily the next most senior or a particular level of seniority, but particular individuals from each area meet once a week to talk business-wide stuff and look at what each area is doing, the business-wide impact on it. And that that's really reaped benefits in terms of, just a much wider, much deeper understanding of the opportunities and challenges in the business. Yeah. And I hope also really develop those individuals because, when they want to take the next step, they have a much wider understanding of business.
Wider lens on things.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing with stepping up, isn't it? You have to often come out of your functional space and really sort of look up and out, and it's tough for people if they've never done that. I think that's really...
it is. I mean, I remember years ago somebody saying to me, you'll never get a promotion until you've developed the person who's going to take over your job. Yeah. Which might be more relevant to sort of a big corporate infrastructure, but there's an element of truth in that.
Yeah, I think that is leadership maturity, is understanding that you don't have to be that sort of person that knows everything and protecting your leadership roles. The minute you can hand things down, it lifts you up, but people don't always.
Yeah. You've seen I wave my hands around a lot. I do that.
Yeah, lifting up and up.
Sometimes I'll be talking to somebody and they know I mean get out of the weeds.
Yeah.
Come on.
We talk about being stuck in the weeds
back,
all the time.
Get up there.
Yeah, you can't swim around in the weeds, can you? You get very, very stuck.
Okay.
Going back to the leadership team, you talked about making sure that they were very tight as a team and very well functioning. Did you do anything specific to make that happen, or is that just sort of focusing on making sure they worked well together?
Most of it has been through intentional focus and working internally. Over the years, there have been a couple of times where we've called in external support because there was a particular challenge, or we'd had a change of individuals where we needed to kind of coalesce, get to know each other,
calibrate. It's interesting.
Yeah, we have, and those have always been hugely impactful. Yeah.
I'm not trying to get you to sell my services for me, I promise. But it is interesting to understand whether that's something that sort of, does come from focusing on it, or whether it's something that people feel that they can't make happen on their own. I think if you know what good looks like, it's probably easier to make happen.
Yeah, and sometimes it's down to time.
Yeah.
If you've got the time to invest in it, or you need somebody else to kind of help you, you can brief and then they can prep and deliver, obviously alongside you as the leader. But so I think time plays part of it as well.
It does, especially when you're in those like mad, fast growth years and you're... I remember listening to you talk about having to just recruit, literally felt like hundreds of people all at once to be able to keep up. And
we did as we were coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not focused on building a really strong leadership team at that point, are you? It's just sort of bums on seats.
Hands to the pump. It was. Yeah, that was the point at which I stopped being involved in recruitment.
Like, actually don't have the bandwidth to do it. No. Which brings me beautifully onto my next question, actually, around bandwidth. How do you you talked about working ridiculous hours and realizing that couldn't continue, and you've talked about all sorts of different things that you have got involved with and done over the years. How do you handle that personal pressure and the demands on your time, because it's bound to be huge?
I know, I must be a sucker for punishment. I love it. I love being busy. I love it. I do still need to coach myself on not saying yes to too much, because every now and then I do that. And, look at my calendar for the next couple of weeks and think,
what have I done? I've done it again.
No, really. I saw Elaine, who's my fantastic EA. I don't know how she puts up with me, but I saw her send out an email the other day. And it was somebody who I wanted to catch up with. And the email said, "I'm really sorry, Louise literally only has these 2.5-hour slots before the end of November." And I was like, oh my goodness.
Really? Do I? What's happened to my life?
Self. I think it was the end of October, because we're over that hump. But it's like, note to self, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you, because you talked about your kids and sort of blame your kids, but they're obviously, they're ever present and they're a bit older now.
They're a lot older now, yeah.
But how have you held those boundaries so that you're still able to have that life as well?
I think I'm like every parent. I juggle like crazy, never quite manage to do anything
properly
as well as I want to do. Yes, I was going to say properly as well. And constantly guilt trip myself about what I haven't done. My 27-year-old daughter has just gone back to work after maternity leave. And bless her, she was pinging me about a week ago with Christmas present suggestions for Uncle David and and Auntie Jo, and I was like, what? We're not even past November. Well, we are now past November the 5th. But
Christmas music
my rule
today
used to be, don't even think about Christmas till you're past bonfire night.
Oh, well, then that's today.
I know. So there we go. No, like everybody else, juggling like crazy. Juggling absolutely like crazy. I do. Again, one of the things I've tried to champion in the company is you take the time you need for yourself or your family. So without question, if you have something happens in your family, you need to take time out. There is no question you take the time out that you need to take. We don't do the, you're allowed, 2 compassionate leave days and you've already used them. That's not a way of working with people that's conducive to trust and loyalty and collaboration. So no, families come first. If you do the school run, put it in your calendar. Yeah. Don't hide it. Don't put it in as busy.
Yeah.
Put in you're doing the school pickup on Tuesdays, whenever. Work around it. People know what they need to deliver for their work.
Yeah.
And it's up to them to figure out how they do that. Ask for help if they need it, obviously, but they can flex their working time around making it work for their lives and their families. And that doesn't just apply to people with kids. So my kids are all grown up. They're 27 and 24 now. But the only time I have managed to stick to time out on a Monday morning, if you look at my Google Calendar that's visible to everybody in the company, I have a yoga lesson at 8:00 on a Monday morning. And then I have a block for an hour afterwards. That's for me to drive back, have a shower, get changed, eat some breakfast, and then I'll start work. So basically,
you're role modelling it.
I don't start work till 10 on a Monday. Nice. Yeah, and that might seem a small thing.
No, but it's a big thing.
But it's amazing how many people get, and when we see it when people join us.
Yeah,
that really, and sometimes you catch them out in the nicest way possible. You'll look at their calendar, think they're free, ping a request through for a call. Yeah. And they're like, I've got to. It's like, put it in your calendar.
Yeah.
Because then we'll all work around it. We're all humans.
Yeah. It's really interesting listening to you talk about that because I think, so many people focus in terms of the cultural stuff and embedding a culture in a business on those really big set piece things like values on a wall, all hands. What do we say at the beginning of somebody's onboarding? And actually, as much as it is those big things and they create clarity, it's in the day-to-day, isn't it, that culture comes?
It's the little things that bring it to life.
Yeah.
I think. We do silly things like you have your birthday off.
Yeah, nice.
That's an extra holiday. And maybe this is me being a control freak. You can't just add it to your holiday when, it's not just an extra holiday.
Can't have it another day.
You take it in the week of your birthday.
Yeah.
So, if your birthday's a bank holiday.
You still get it.
You take it another day. But little things like that, I think they really, really matter. And I think they are. We have the little red book of GoHenry. We have our work principles. We put a lot of effort into them. That runs all the way through our recruitment, all the way through our performance reviews, all the way through everything, even customer touch points. But it's how you show up day to day and how, I think it's really important that all the leaders in the business model those behaviours because otherwise it's fake.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that creates more of an issue often. That's where the toxicity lives.
Yeah, it is.
In the difference between say and do, isn't it? And that, that's where so many businesses and business leaders fall down.
And I hadn't realised until a couple of months ago when somebody was asking me about something. When you build a company, and it doesn't matter if it's 3 people or 250 something, suddenly you're in a really privileged position. All the things you would like a company to be, all the things you've not liked somewhere else you've worked, you can make them happen.
Yeah, you can.
Wow.
It's in your gift now.
I know. But isn't that fantastic? I've never even entered my head. But so you can make sure that the board is diverse, the C-suite's diverse. Yeah, family policies, human policies matter. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Question that popped into my head when you were talking about the little red book of GoHenry.
Yeah.
At what point did
Not Chairman Mao's.
At what point did that appear in the journey? Because it's really interesting how many, we work with loads of really disruptive people.
Yeah.
They're natural rebels. They're often allergic to anything that feels corporate and things like that can feel like they're sort of, they're almost creating too much rigidity. They're taking you away from that freedom and that disruption that you're led by. I don't think it does. I think it gives you a scaffolding actually and a safety blanket. Yeah. But I'm interested around what point in time that came to fruition.
It was one of the points we've mentioned. So as we came out of COVID, I'm still very mindful when I talk about this, that so many businesses went under or had an incredibly tough time. We grew like crazy. Yeah. If you think about what happened, everybody suddenly was at home. We were all having to shop online.
Yeah,
parents suddenly thought, oh my God, I'm not going to give my kid my credit card. They needed GoHenry. And so, our revenues doubled in the year coming out of COVID.
Wow.
And that was when we hired over 100 people in not very long at all. And it was when I had to give up. I couldn't be involved in all the hiring. And so part of my thinking was, how do I make absolutely sure the mission is still absolutely centre focus?
Yeah.
So what is how do we articulate how that mission plays out in who we are, how we show up, how we behave, how we work together? And I was Googling for inspiration and shamelessly copied a company that most people will know called HubSpot.
Oh, yeah.
They had I don't think they called it work principles, but they had gone through a process of this. And of course, I had to take it a stage further. We gathered together the senior team and took a couple of days away to work through what do we think is important, how do we want to work together. But we decided, and we did use external support to do that, we decided we didn't want to shape those words, refine them down to, the perfect statement.
Yeah.
What we wanted to do was come up with the principles and then take it out to the rest of the company. And I think we were probably 120 people at the time. And so I thought I'd budgeted for, with the external support we were using, one workshop in London, in our London offices, and one workshop in our Farnborough offices, which is where our customer support and operations teams are based. And put it out to the company saying who'd like to be involved. And it was something like 95% of people came back and said they wanted to be involved. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't got budget for this. we ended up doing 3 workshops in each location. Wow. And do you know what? It was fabulous. It was, it was amazing. The energy in those workshops, people jumping up and, the head of compliance and a Saturday member service agent battling it out over whether this word or that word captured something better and getting up with the pens and the marker boards and stuff. It was brilliant. And we refined it down and then we gave it to a content and creative team to bring it to life. And it's one of the only physical things other than a card, obviously your debit cards, that we have in GoHenry. And it's our little red book. You get sent it when you join us. But we then took that process all the way through recruitment, performance, customer touch points. Yeah. And I have taken away the learning that by involving everybody, it wasn't a top-down corporate thing. It was, we all built it.
Yeah. And I think listening to you talk about, you talked about putting the mission at the centre. It sort of occurred to me that actually when we're thinking about that hub and spoke model, if you can get that right, you can put all of that at the centre. And it means you kind of can. It does a lot of the hard work for you, a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of how we do things. Yeah.
And we haven't always got things right. Don't think that for a moment. We've made some spectacular mishires, I've learned that they're called.
Misfires,
mishires, whatever. Got it wrong a few times. I've learned over the years to act on that fast.
Yeah.
It's not
hire
cruel.
Slow, fire fast.
Yeah. It always sounds brutal when you start saying it, but it isn't. You can realise you've made a mistake and ask somebody to move on quickly. You can do it kindly. You can do it well.
Yeah. And you can do it in line with the value set, can't you?
Absolutely.
Without talking about specifics, and you won't be able to, and you won't want to, and I don't want you to either. But when you have mishired, is there a common thread in what the reasons why you've seen that happening, or what's caused that?
Well, I can think of one. There is one really obvious one. So in our process, when somebody joins us, we have a 6-month probation period. And sometimes, particularly with senior hires, people push back about this. But we have a 6-month probation period. And, there is an onboarding process. There is a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, all the classic
all the good stuff.
Yeah. There is a process. The rule is we don't extend probation. We should
not working by that point. Yeah.
At the 30-day. We should definitely know by the 60-day. If we're at the 90-day, it should be you've sailed through, or we should have been addressing it before that. where it probably only happened, I was going to say a handful of times. It's probably happened less than 10 times in the history of the company since we've had that process in place, where for whatever reason, there's been a decision taken to extend that probation period. Every single time we've then had to say, yeah, sorry, no. And that individual has had to leave. And so, don't extend the probation period.
When you know, you know.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I could spend a lot of time talking to you about that, but we won't. So we'll wrap up with a couple of questions. So just looking back, because we talked about that sort of whole journey, if you started again, if you went right back to the start knowing what you know now, and maybe the sort of mishires are a good place to sort of come from to think about that, what if anything, would you do differently? This, I guess, is in part advice to people that are earlier on in the journey.
Maybe not. Some of the things I've spoken about today that where I realised, oh, hang on a minute, you've not thought about that sufficiently soon. Definitely correct those. But fundamentally, nothing.
Brilliant.
Nothing. It's been, I will get emotional. It's been an absolute ride. It's still an absolute ride. It's, I one of the things I love most is hearing from customers. And, that can sound corny, but we get the most amazing stories from customers about how it's changed lives. I mean, I know, I was sort of thinking, God, doesn't that sound grandiose? But, an example, we had a mum write in to say that she was a single mum. She had 2 boys, and the youngest was desperate to go to Disneyland Paris. And she said they live in a small flat. She was trying to hold down a couple of jobs. And she'd said to him, sweetheart, just can't afford it. I'm really sorry. I know you'd love to go, but we can't afford it. And he'd said, well, I'm going to save up. And he'd started doing odd jobs. He'd started going out to neighbours and things and doing jobs, getting money, getting paid onto his GoHenry card with his mum's approval, really knuckling down and saving. He'd asked how much his ticket would be, and he'd put that on his savings goal. And she said she'd just watched him and thought, well, if he can do that, I can do that. Amazing. So she started saving up for her and the older son. Yeah. And they sent us a postcard from Disneyland Paris.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I know. My
Is it still on the wall somewhere?
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's a lovely story. There are so many stories like that. So that's many stories of people. And on her postcard, she said she'd never saved in her life before. She'd always thought, I can't save. I don't have enough money. Yeah. But watching him and his determination had made her think, I can do this. Yeah. And now she saves. And that's one person. But I'm going to say something very grandiose. That's how you change the world. One person at a time. Yeah.
100%. Oh, I love that story. That's brilliant. You must, when you talk about, getting up in the morning because of that mission and that vision, I mean, that must fuel that to such an extent.
Yes. And I don't know if it's, 4 or 5 years ago, we were trying to figure out if our mission statement is to make every kid smart with money. Yeah. And that every was chosen deliberately, knowing that we are a subscription business, paid for service. So we're never going to reach through GoHenry as it stands, every child. How do we tackle that? And we thought about, do we work with a charity and fund them to deliver financial education in schools? Do we? And everything we were trying to think about seemed quite small scale. And I suppose never one to be daunted by, let's go big. We came up with the belief that the only way to really make change to everyone was to get government to make financial education mandatory in every school in England, and started lobbying for that, not knowing anything about public affairs, never having spoken to an MP before in my life, or understanding how politics works, other than my vote.
Yeah.
No. And that's what we've been working really hard on, and I've been spending more and more of my time on over the past years. And we've had all these amazing opportunities through it. We gave evidence to the Education Select Committee. This Labour government commissioned a curriculum and assessment review. We gave evidence to that. We created a financial education manifesto. We gathered together, we've spent hundreds of hours, held round tables, brought together charities, government organisations, trying to lobby for this and showing the impact it could have on individuals and on the UK economy. Yeah. And the curriculum and assessment review report came out yesterday. And the fantastic news is it is in the new national curriculum. The national curriculum is going to be made mandatory. It is going to be taught from primary school upwards. It is not going to be taught in maths alone, which we passionately believed it needed to sit. Yeah. Some in maths, how you calculate compound interest, yes, but actually there are real practical, behavioural and attitudinal things that need to be put across that can't really sit practically in maths. So it will sit in citizenship. No, I mean, just fantastic. Yesterday was a bit of a blur. Yeah. Lots of press, lots of... just coming down from thinking, wow,
that's huge.
It's happened.
Yeah, and it's not just kids, is it? It's adults. That those kids are going to become adults, and that's what education's about. And
when I've talked about why it matters, I've said it's a societal shift, it's a generational shift, and it's such an opportunity to make a sizable change in the fortunes of every individual and the country. Yeah, so there we go. That's my grandiose comment for the session.
I think by the sounds of things you deserve to be you're allowed to be grandiose when you're changing things like that. And the thing for me is that, we talk a lot to people about this, around this idea of leadership not just being about the people that work for you and, leadership not just being about management and man management. Actually, great leadership is about being able to influence whatever group of people you need to and want to, and that's what makes you such an inspirational leader. Thank you. This has been
make me blush. Thank you.
But I knew that I wanted you on this podcast, and I knew that you were inspiring from what you'd done at GoHenry, but to hear the extent to which you're having an impact, that is really special. Last question. For people who are in that messy middle, bringing you back down to earth, what is the one piece of advice you would give people at that inflection point around being an intentional leader?
I think it's got to go back to the why. Yeah. What's the purpose? Why are you doing this? What's the mission? And anchor back to that, because that will always steer you in the right direction. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Louise Hill, thank you very much for being part of this today. Really enjoyed myself. I hope you have too.
Yeah, I have.
And looking forward to seeing what you do next.
Me
too. Thank you so much. Taking on the world. Go and fix some more things. Thank you so much for joining us on The Third Seat. I really hope this conversation gave you some reflection points, some insights, or some inspiration to think about how you can become a more intentional leader. If you have any questions or any reflections, please do get in touch. We love to hear from you, and we'd love to answer some of your questions in a future podcast. In the meantime, follow the show and do join us again for more conversations with scale-up leaders. We've saved you a seat.